On this week's Superhero Spotlight, we're focusing on the Winter Soldier himself, Bucky Barnes. Going from one of the most famous dead characters to one of the most important living ones in the Marvel Universe, Bucky has had quite a long journey. He's a character who will forever be linked to Captain America, including that he was created at the exact same time. Bucky first appeared as Captain America's loyal sidekick in March 1941 in Captain America Comics #1, created by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. At the time, every superhero was getting a spunky sidekick to help him out, even the ones fighting the Nazis in Europe. And Bucky becomes his sidekick quite easily, accidentally walking into Captain America's tent, sees him putting on the mask, and realizes he's Captain America. That leaves Steve Rogers with no other option than to make Bucky his loyal ward. This will be a retcon later on that Bucky was an army brat with amazing skill, one of the best natural fighters they'd ever seen, and at age 16, the U.S. Army decided that he would be a helpful part of Captain America's battle strategy, including sending him ahead to cut the throats of guards. So even from the beginning, Bucky was a hardcore guy. Back at the time fighting Nazis, he didn't just team up with Captain America, though. He also worked with other sidekicks like Human Torch's friend Toro, and he even had his own set of friends in the Young Allies, included a stereotypically fat kid, Tubby, and a character named Whitewash Jones that you are better off not searching for. It's really not good. Anyway, after the war was over, superheroes fell out of favor, especially ones connected to World War II, like Cap and Bucky. And so Bucky was written out of the series into the late 40s, though he would briefly return in the 50s when the Commie Smasher Cap returned, though this would later be retconned to be a replacement Bucky, that Bucky Barnes was still not around. Their absence was finally explained when Captain America was brought into the Silver Age in Avengers #4, May 1964, where it is explained that he and Bucky vanished at the end of the Great War, and by Avengers 56 in September 1968, his death was finally written. It was revealed that Captain America and Bucky were caught by Baron Zemo, the original Baron Zemo, not his son, who he'd fight later, at the end of World War II, April 1945 to be exact, and Zemo is about to launch his V-2 rocket in an attack on America. Both try to stop it by jumping on the rocket. Steve falls off and lands in the water, getting frozen in a block of ice, while Bucky stays on the rocket and it explodes, leaving him seemingly dead. In the meantime, there are several replacements for Bucky, but few of them stuck, and at the time Stan Lee himself said that he wasn't a fan of sidekicks and preferred that heroes would go solo, even guys who were Bucky's age. And after staying dead for decades, it was assumed that Bucky would be one of the very few superheroes who never came back from the grave. All that changed in 2005. Writer Ed Brubaker with artist Steve Epting decided to say nuts to all that with the Winter Soldier arc. Brubaker and Epting launched a new Captain America book that with a much more grounded take, and the first storyline was about the mysterious Winter Soldier, a mythical Soviet spy that was hunting Cap. But soon it is revealed that that Winter Soldier was actually Bucky, who had been on deep freeze for more than 60 years. It was revealed that Bucky had lost his arm in the explosion but did not die, and now has a pretty cool cybernetic arm given to him by the USSR, along with a ton of killer training. Also in his time in the USSR, it was revealed that he had a brief liaison with Black Widow back when she was a communist spy. It goes without saying that Brubaker and Epting did the impossible by making Bucky come back, and not only making it work, but by making the Winter Soldier one of the best new additions to the Marvel Universe in some time. When Cap finds out he's Bucky, even though Barnes doesn't remember it, he uses the Cosmic Cube to make the Winter Soldier get back all of his memories. That helps out Barnes, but he can't turn his back on his brainwashing and the crimes he committed. Of course, that changes where after the Civil War, Captain America is captured and then dies in Captain America 25, April 2007, and that sets Bucky on the path to inherit Captain America's shield and become the new Cap in number 34, March 2008. His costume is a really great one, designed by Alex Ross, that incorporated guns and more black into the costume than before, though still keeping his non-lethal and shiny style above the waist. During his brief run as Captain America, Bucky Barnes had some really great stories, fighting all the usual enemies, and also began a relationship with the Black Widow. Barnes even replaced Steve on the New Avengers, teaming up with a bunch of characters he'd never really gotten to meet before in some pretty cool stories. When Rogers eventually did come back to life, he even briefly let Bucky stay as Captain America while Steve headed up the S.H.I.E.L.D. agency. Of course, it wasn't all wine and roses because Baron Zemo came back and outed Bucky as the Winter Soldier to the public, getting him tried for his crimes and sent to a Russian gulag very briefly. Once he gets freed, he gets involved in the mega crossover Fear itself, where he is killed on the battlefield by the daughter of Red Skull, only to be secretly resurrected by Nick Fury in a sneaky ploy to trick Steve into becoming Captain America again. As the Winter Soldier, he was presumed dead for some time, working in the background as a secret agent, backed up by Black Widow, though when that storyline came to an end, Black Widow lost her memories of their relationship, basically breaking them up. The next time we'd see Bucky in a major story would be in the original Sync crossover, where he has declared war on Nick Fury, seemingly, and by the end of it, when Nick Fury has become the new Watcher, the Winter Soldier becomes Earth's top protective assassin, the man on the wall, as it were, who stops alien invasions before they come. And of course, that takes us to today, where Winter Soldier seems to be on the verge of leading his own team of Thunderbolts. Bucky didn't make too many appearances outside of comic books until recently. He did appear in a few cartoons that would show flashbacks to Captain America's past, but Bucky was a very corny character. Winter Soldier, meanwhile, started making a lot of appearances in games, but his biggest deal was when Bucky was played by Sebastian Stan in all three of the Captain America solo films, including his amazing star turn in Winter Soldier as a Terminator-esque villain out to destroy Captain America. It played out very similar to the books in a great film spectacle, and he's the center once again of the Civil War film. Who knows what's coming in the future for Bucky, but his first 75 years ended up being way more eventful than we first would have thought.
This concludes this edition of Superhero Spotlight. For more, click the heroes above or subscribe to this channel. For extended editions of Superhero Spotlight, tune in to Cape Crisis, your new favorite weekly comic book show, wherever you get your podcasts.